Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Stop, Look, and Listen. I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. This week, we have a special guest. She built a multi-million-dollar business right out of her living room. She then sold it to a Fortune 500 company and then had to fight that same company in a legal battle that nearly cost her everything. She's an author, and she's also the executive director of Black Theater United. We have Kettia Ming. Welcome to the show, Kettia.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm
Cool.
very excited to be here. Again, this is, sort of my first experience, so I'm excited to talk to you.
All right, I'm excited as well. So, tell me about your book, Run the Mile You're In, scheduled to be released in May. Give us the background story.
Yeah, sure. So the book came out of my experience of so I started the business out of my literally like my the basement of my apartment. Like I was living in like a duplex apartment in Manhattan at the time, and I started a childcare center. I couldn't even call it a childcare center at the time because it was really just a space for my daughter because I couldn't find childcare for her. Very, very expensive in New York and very, very hard to find. And she was 15-month old at the time. And I decided, I really talked my husband into like, let's just do this in the apartment because I had taken her to another home daycare that was, the experience wasn't so great. And I was like, this woman can do it. Like, why can't I do it right here? Right. So that's sort of how the whole concept of my company started, which is named Smarter Toddler, and started literally in the basement of my apartment. And within 6 months, I had my first commercial location. And about a year and a half later, I opened up the second commercial location. At that point, I am servicing about almost 300 families in the Upper West Side of New York. And I did that for a good 11, 12 years and then sold the company to Bright Horizons. And, when you've been doing something for a really long time and it's like your baby and you're not really sure what to do after that. And it was basically like my decision to kind of let's go back into the business. And then so we took the proceeds from the sale and decided to open up two other new locations in Manhattan. And then Bright Horizons came after me and sued me. And so the charge for suing me was that I breached the non-compete, which I did have in my contract. I knew about it. Like it wasn't like, a surprise, but I wasn't allowed to open a location within a mile and a half from any location that they have. And I took a Garmin. I measured it. Like I ran it, I walked it, I did all of it, right? And I
Right.
was well within the limit of that mile and a half. So the 100 feet that they were charging me with that I breached over the non-compete was as the crow flies.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you know what that term is because I certainly didn't. Like it's a legal term that means that it's the distance that you cannot walk. It literally means as the crow flies.
Okay.
So 100 feet as the crow, not that I can walk that 100 feet or that you can walk or parents can walk with their stroller. No, 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 no. As the crow flies. So that's the technicality that they came after me with, right? And yeah, it sued me for $1.5 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure that was a shock to you, even like you said, even though it was the language was in the agreement, just the fact that they actually put it into action.
So the not the as the crow flies language was not in the agreement.
Okay.
The non-compete was in the agreement. Yes, I
Yeah.
knew that. I knew about the mile and a half that I couldn't get close to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the term that they ended up using, because apparently it's a legal term and you can use that, that was never in the contract. Like, because I would have tried to find out what that means. I would have learned what that meant before I even opened up that third location, right? Like, so
Right.
I didn't have that information because it was never in a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the result of the lawsuit?
So immediately it was like they wanted me to shut down because they were like, you in breach of contract. So we went to court. It wasn't like an emergency. We went to court, and the goal was to get the court um, to ask that to basically what they call a stay, to get a stay from the court so that I would be able to open my business, and then whatever we needed to, sort of figure out, but we could keep it outside of court. However, the judge ruled in their favor, and also said that he wasn't ordering me to shut down, but wanted me to work out whatever differences, with the company, right? So they basically sent us to mediation. So that took months. We were in mediation for, I mean, I was allowed to open, so I could stay open and run the business, but what they were asking for was if we could not come to an agreement, then I would have to close my doors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So what agreement came from
Um,
all of it?
so so what did end up happening is, after many, many months and lots of legal fees on my end, obviously, which really sucked all of like the funding and all of the money that we had to run the business, went towards legal fees. We ended up with an agreement where I had to pay them $1.5 million over, I believe it was the course of 2 years at that point, meaning, like at the end of the year in December, I had to give them a portion of the 1.5 million. So, but it was like over 2 years, which is a lot of money. I mean, while childcare and the business that I was running it's very lucrative, like normally, but not when you first open your door, right? Like with
Right.
any business, you still have to make sure that, you're getting your clients in. You have to allow for time for the business to grow. You have to allow for surprises, for challenges, for marketing. Um, none of the, none of those things that I had the opportunity to be able to do, because all I was doing was like dealing with like the legal ramifications and all the money that was sucking out of the business from the beginning. So kind of was like crippling the business from the go,
Mm-hmm.
and not having the opportunity to grow the business organically, and to be able to get to the point where the business could be successful. And I believe that was kind of like
Yeah.
their
Ammo.
their game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you started over with the newer business, did all of your team from the previous incarnation stay with Bright
No.
Horizons, or did they come with you?
No, they stayed. So when I sold the first two centers, the team stayed because I didn't have a business. I didn't have a new school at the time. I
Yeah.
hadn't even decided yet that I was going to open up something new or when or where. So the team stayed, but honestly, they ended up kind of letting go of most of them because they were at like salary wise, they were, pretty high for them. And understanding that, Bright Horizons is a huge corporation, and really answer to like their, stockholders, right? And they're not really about, culture and community and building something and nurturing, staff members. It was really all about the bottom line. So they kind of did let go of a lot of my staff. So no, I didn't have most of the team members with me. So I was hiring all new team members who were basically trusting me and trusting me to have a job. And I had to sort of not, I couldn't say anything to them in the beginning, and I had to act like everything was great, everything was fine with the business, and I had to keep paying them, and just really putting up a good front and being and not scaring anybody about their job and about the future of the business, while everything was happening, behind the scenes, and I was just dealing with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So for a business owner, because I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs over the years on
Hmm.
this program, like this is your baby, this is your creation, and for it to scale up to the heights that it achieved in order to sell it, like I know there's a lot of pride there. So like when you see what they did to your company, taking the soul out, like how did that make you feel? Because I'm sure you still wanted your baby to succeed, even
Yeah.
if you're not directly impacting it anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there is a certain grief about that, honestly, that a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about because when people hear about like that you sell your business, like people picture celebration and champagne and you buy a brand new car. Like they just think of all these amazing things that you could do. It's like, "Oh my God, like you made it. You sold your company." It's a very small percentage of people that are able to do that. So yes, there's a lot of pride. But there's also a certain amount of grief, particularly for me, because in childcare, the people that you're working with, these are not people that are sitting there like pushing papers in an office, right? Like these are people who are taking care of children, other people's children, which is, parents who are trusting you with their most precious things in life, which is their kids. And so my job was to take care of my teachers so that my teachers could take care of the kids, right? And that's a job that I took very, very, very seriously. I love my community. I love the culture that I built there. People were very, very happy, and really sort of like uh, took pride in the organization as if it was their own, it was, I know people hate when companies and owners and founders say this, but we really were like a family. Um, I knew everybody's preferences, like, who liked their coffee a certain way. Like I loved all of my stuff. I mean, sure, I had, sometimes you have to fire someone. I have had to fire people. There are times like not everything was perfect and rosy, but it was certainly an incredible community of folks. And I felt terrible and very, very guilty and spent a lot of time like really thinking about that after I sold the company, because I was worried about their future and what was going to happen. And Bright Horizon turned around and did exactly what I was afraid of, which was to fire all of the top earners and bring in folks at like whatever level, that they normally pay. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, you mentioned in the book, which we'll obviously dig into in a few, losing everything, not only the business, but also going bankrupt, and um, it also led to a divorce. Like, just talk about, I guess, that trickle down effect. Like,
So the business at some point, so my husband at the time, we started the business together, right? And I always like to say, not that I like to say, it's the truth. Like to me, the company, I was always kind of like the head and the heart of the school, and my husband was what I call the soul because he was really the design person. He was the person who when you walked into the center, the way it looked and sounded and smelled and everything that you felt when you walked in there, that was his. That came from him. He's an artist, and the space looked like something between like a children's museum or like a child's dream bedroom, right? Like it was an incredible space, and that was all him. The music that we played, the art on the wall, every sort of event, like that was all him. And I handled all of the administrative and all of the teachers and the marketing and all of the business end, and he handled all of like the soulful end, I like to say.
hmm
And so we were very, very, very close partners in the business and the things that we did. So when all of that came, and don't forget that like we had already ran the first two for like 11, 12 years when we sold, and then we took kind of like a brief sabbatical for like a year before we opened up the next two. So there was a lot of stress there, and there was like a lot riding on what was going to happen with the next two, and that was supposed to be kind of like our legacy. And when everything kind of crashed and burned and fell apart by this lawsuit, it took a toll on us because I was busy sort of like just trying to survive and trying to save the business, that there were many, many things that were happening, where I sort of neglected, well, we both neglected each other and like did not have any time to spend with each other. And that started trickling down from there. But also how that came to the whole bankruptcy part is because one of the things that people don't talk about, because people don't like talking about bankruptcy, but bankruptcy is a business strategy, right? It
Mm-hmm.
is like, so when everything was happening with the two locations and we started to like, we literally were started to hemorrhage like money because of these huge payments that we had to make to, to Bright Horizons at the end of the year. So it was like the business was starting, it was successful, but also cannibalizing itself. Because every dime we made had to go towards savings to kind of like meet these payments and these requirements and everything else that was happening, all the expenses, right? That by the time we reach, this was right before it was like the third year where we had to pay them. And we were kept falling behind on rent and this and that and the other. And my lawyer was like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put the business in bankruptcy so that you can sell it. If that, and by then, both my ex-husband and I were so like, yeah, let's do it. Like we listened to what he had to say. He explained the strategy. It made sense. It wasn't personal bankruptcy. It was business bankruptcy. And so we had to sort of really trust in what he was doing and the legal strategy that he had in mind. And it worked. It did work. So once he did put the company in bankruptcy, people started like vultures, I called them, started circling like and making offers. And some of them were ridiculous. Like it was like, we wouldn't even entertain. And then ultimately, yeah, there was like, then KinderCare stepped up and had a real offer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was like, yeah, sure, don't, the business is in bankruptcy for a reason, but here's the value, and this is what you get, and this and that and the other. And that's how we were able to sell the business the second time, was because we did that. But yeah, but that did not save my marriage, no.
Okay. All right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, I definitely think it's good that you're talking about bankruptcy because people often, think of it in a negative
Yeah.
fashion. So like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'd say continue to educate us on the difference between personal bankruptcy and business bankruptcy.
Right. Because there's such a stigma,
Hmm.
like if somebody's like, oh, I filed for bankruptcy, it's like you almost like an untouchable, by the banking organizations or buying a car, like whatever it is, right? And I understand what personal bankruptcy is and why there's like you don't want to touch it if you can help it. But when you are in business, you definitely want to educate yourself about how and where, it makes sense for you to use it. And it's not to say that, you are, it's like a get out of jail free card that like you're not going to pay your debt. No, you're going to pay your debt.
Hmm.
But it's the way to restructure your business. That could buy you an extra year or 2 years or whatever it is, but then everybody does get paid. There's that, and then there's the version of people that are like, and I'm sure you've without naming names, but like some people, big names who have used bankruptcy every single time, like
Yeah.
dozens of time to get out
Yeah.
of paying, people. That's not what we are advocating for,
Yeah,
right? But
we see him
yeah,
every day.
uh-huh, every
Oh,
day,
yeah.
right? Like, and unfortunately, he's not doing anything illegal, but it's just not. It's also there's definitely a balance and you have to be scrupulous about it and you have to use it in the business way and not like, oh, I'm just going to stop paying people,
Hmm.
so that's there's a big difference. Yeah.
Right. All right. So like I see a million medals behind you. Um, so I kind of get an inkling of how you came up with the title for the book, Run
Yeah.
the Mile You're In, because it looks like you're an avid runner.
I'm a runner. Yes, I'm a runner. I used to do a lot of races. I don't race anymore. I still run because like I run's a runner always. But yes, during that time specifically, actually when the lawsuit came down, I had literally just finished running Boston. So I had qualified for Boston, which I trained for like a year, like it was a second job.
Hmm.
Because Lord knows I needed a second job. But yeah, I trained for Boston. I got in, I ran it that spring, and then like all hell broke loose. But it was running that got me through a lot. Like it was everybody's got their poison, like whatever that may be, right? Like some people go home and they drink whatever, or they smoke, like, and that's cool. Like we each have whatever we need to get through whatever we need to get through. For me, it was running. Like I
Hmm.
wake up early, and I was part of a running club, and we would meet at like 5:30, 6 a.m. Most of these people were, work regular day jobs like 9 to 5, so that was the only time we could run. A lot of them were moms or dads or, people that just like had all these other responsibilities, and that was the only time we could, get it in. So we would run at, 6 a.m. That was the 6 a.m. club. Yeah. So yeah, I ran a lot.
So like I didn't know you had to like qualify for marathons.
For Boston, you do.
But just for Boston? Okay.
Just for Boston. That is
Okay.
why it's so like, I don't know, like the granddaddy and the most coveted, to qualify for Boston is like if I just say to somebody I run Boston, they already know what I had to do to get there.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, runners know. They're just like, oh wow, like it's because it's hard. It's hard. It's very, very hard because it's you have to meet a certain time for your age. So
Okay.
for me, for my age, when I ran Boston at the time, I was like 43, or whatever it was, and I had to run a 3:45
Hmm.
to qualify to get into the race.
Right.
Yeah.
So like where do you go to qualify? Did you have to go to Boston or you
So
do it?
you run another marathon.
Okay.
And then that marathon, their course has to meet the qualifications for Boston. So it can't just be any marathon. It has to be like kind of like think of like Olympic
Hmm.
trials, right?
Trials,
Like
yeah.
it's the same thing. Like so most marathons courses do qualify and they've made sure of that. Especially the flat courses, like because that's where people go to like run a fast race to qualify for Boston. And then
Hmm.
once you qualify, I ran Boston. I didn't have to, make a certain time once I ran Boston. Like that was just that's the victory lap. That's like, oh, I'm here. Like I could have run 5 hours. Well, maybe not. But yeah, like once you get there, you get there. But
Right.
to get there, to get on that race course, you have to qualify to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Todd McLean provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338 or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
How did you relate your love for running to your journey and then tying it into, your book?
So that phrase "run the mile you're in," I actually learned that from one of the very first. At one point, I had a running coach just because I was like running a lot and I was running a lot of races. And one of the races that I had a coach for was for San Francisco. Like I had a marathon coming up, the San Francisco Marathon, and I had a coach. And so San Francisco is very, very hilly. And I live in New York and we run in Central Park, and there are like some sort of very like tough hills in the park. And so
Hmm.
we were doing hill repeats. And he was on his bike, and he's, I had my, numbers, and this is what I had to hit, like whatever, for like I think we were doing like either 200 or 400 meters, I don't remember. And every time I would crest the hill and I would like see the top of the hill, and there was like so much more hill to go, and I would kind of slow down, and he's like, you slow down each time you get here. Like, why do you do that? And I'm like, because it's so much freaking more, like I just see the top and I'm like, I'm never gonna make it, right? And he's like, you can't think that way. He's like, you have to run the mile you're in. Like, you have to like stay in the moment that you're in, like right now. Like, just one step at a time. Like, don't think about the next crest. Don't think about the curve. Don't think, like, just stay in the moment and don't think about it. And so your steps won't slow down, right? And I remember thinking that, and it's true. And I've taken that with me to so many things in life. Like, to me, it wasn't about the hill. It's not about running. Like, to me, running represents, it's like the metaphor for presence. It's like being present in the situation that you're in at the moment. like when all of that stuff was happening with me in my life, when I had all the challenges with like, like dealing with the lawsuit, and like I still had to show up to work every day and deal with my staff and take care of my kids who were teenagers at home. And, while I was like having a marriage that was falling apart and like not really thinking about, like, it was just so much that I knew I couldn't handle all of that at once. Like I was like, but I could handle like today, I
Hmm.
could handle this hour, this moment, this afternoon, this teacher crisis, this child I have to send home because they're sick. Like I was just handling everything in the moment. That was the only way for me to process everything all at once. Otherwise, I would have driven myself crazy because it was like, whatever happened yesterday doesn't count. And anything tomorrow is just anxiety. Like I'm just going to give myself anxiety.
Right.
So that's kind of how that framework for me became kind of like my mantra. And I've used it with literally everything in life. And it's really helped me. Yeah.
Hmm. How long did it take for you to get to that point? Because I mean, I could equate it to breakups. Like you're at first when you break up with a person, you're going through the whirlwind of emotions, and like there's periods where you have the urge to contact the person just out of curiosity to see if they'll take you back, and it's rough at points, but then I mean you may meet somebody else and entertain that for a little bit, but you still have the other person in the back of your mind. But
Yeah.
gradually you're distancing yourself from this person and you're moving on. Like how long did
Mm-hmm.
it take? How long did it take for you to um get back on the right track and be yourself again?
Um, Geez. It took a minute. Yeah, it took a minute. It wasn't right away. It took, and I went through a lot of just self analysis and really being open and being willing to look at where I was lacking and what I was doing and what I could do better. I mean, it took a lot of, first I started with myself, like, and I think starting with myself was um sort of the not easier, it certainly wasn't easier, but it was the most practical thing for me to do, because otherwise I would fall into like it's everyone's fault, it's this person, it's this situation, and then I become a victim. And I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be the person that was wrong in business and the person that was wrong, in my relationship or this and that. So I had to take responsibility, and I had to learn what that meant, to sort of start with myself and go from there. Yeah, every day took me a little bit closer to sort of understanding what had happened to me, and how to get past it. But no, it wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick, and there was no hack, it was really just slowly going through it, kind of one day at a time. I learned meditation during that time, which helped as well. um yeah, that was one thing that I did. I thought that had a huge impact, to be able to understand what was happening inside my own head, because there's a lot that goes on in my head, because I could
Hmm.
drive myself crazy. So yeah, that really helped as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like writing Run the Mile You're In, like were there moments that was like difficult for you to flash back to or to recollect, or like were there times where it's like, man, I totally forgot about this, but
Totally.
as I'm writing or putting together a chapter, like everything just started, um, all of those memories started to rehash in my mind.
Yeah. No, you totally nailed it. There's so many moments that I was like, I didn't remember this. I
Hmm.
like, and it's like I truly, it was like, there's a part in your brain that protects you, like memory protects you. Um, because a lot of times where you think something happened a certain way, and then, you might be, I don't know if you have siblings, sometimes like you think of something a certain way in your house, and your sibling was like, that's not how it happened. Like it's the same thing. Like, the way we experience something is the way we remember it. And each of our experience is so different that we don't all remember the same thing. And so that definitely happened to me. So the number that they sued me for, I blocked it out. I literally could not remember. I had to go back into documents because at some point I thought it was $500,000. I was like, but that doesn't sound right. And I had to go back and look at the numbers in black and white to be like, those people, like, it's another word for them, but like, it was not half like, and that's when I remember I was like, oh my God, no, it was $1.5 million. So things like that. It was like there were things that when I had to stand, I had a very, very good editor. Like I loved her. She was like a very strict but kind of kind auntie. I
Mm-hmm.
would give her pages and she's like, no, I need you to go deeper. I need you to take me into that scene. I need you to take me into the room. I need you to show me. I don't need you to tell. Like there was a lot of like, show me, show me, show me. And it was very difficult sometimes where I felt like I would like almost like transporting myself back in time and putting myself in that memory. That wasn't pleasant. Like my breakup, my marriage, like the way we broke up, like all of it. Like it just was not pleasant to go back to,
Yeah.
and I had put all that stuff like where I buried it somewhere and then now I had to remember. So yeah, it was very tough. It was
Mm-hmm.
tough, but it was also cathartic. It was very like it was therapy. Yeah.
Right. Um, would you still stay in the child care babysitting business? Would you start another?
No,
You're done with it?
no. Yeah, I did that and I loved it. I loved it. I was also a lot younger and it's a very tough business. Even when you're good and, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I could. I was very, very like I really was. I love my centers. And I mean, just for the fact that the people who acquired them, it tells you everything, right?
Yeah.
They wanted that. So, but I couldn't do it at that level anymore. And yeah, no, I feel like I did my part. I loved it. And yeah, I don't think I would go back to that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, talk about your pivot. Getting into the world of nonprofit leadership and helping to grow Black Theater United.
Black Theater United. So, that was a huge pivot for me. I don't know anything, well, I didn't at the time know anything about nonprofit. I'd never worked in a nonprofit setting before, organization. And so it was a huge, kind of leap for me to be like, hey, just you can do this. And so when I was asked to come in, I was asked to come in and help them. It was a brand new organization. They had started in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. And it was started by a group of Broadway luminaries who are incredible and talented and amazing at what they do. But they don't do business, right? Like they're creatives,
Yeah.
and they wanted somebody to come in and help them with infrastructure and hiring, staff and do all that. And originally, I had agreed to step in and do it for 6 months. I was like, sure, I'll set you guys up for 6 months, and then we'll see how it goes. And 4 years later, here I am. Because obviously, there's no way I could have done the work that we needed to do in 6 months. And I realized that fairly quickly. But I've stayed, but I really love it. It's been like a really great experience for me. Yeah.
Hmm. So do
And
you
I
feel?
love
So you feel? Oh, bless you. Do you feel like the skills that you attained early on are like so transferable? Bless you again. It's transferable to the point where now it's about finding opportunities, that you're passionate about, and maybe that they're lacking some of your know-how and bringing in your valuable expertise to that project.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about leadership. And yes, the skills are very transferable because while the work that I was doing in early childhood, the impact was different. Obviously, it was a private organization and it doesn't mean that the impact was not as important because it was private. I was working with children, right? So there's huge impact when you're working with children and you are nurturing the curiosity, and um, you're exposing them to so much more. Like, the preschool that I ran was a preschool of the arts. So it was really, the arts was really, really important to me, even then. And stepping into Black Theater United, where the work that we are doing is diversifying the backup stage and also creating impact, but through education and opportunities and pathways for young Black and Brown creatives of color, people that you don't normally see behind the stage, like artisans, like, lighting, stage managers, lighting design, sound design, um, uh, producing, directing, these sort of jobs that were not really a huge, when you went backstage, you wouldn't see that. Like the front of stage, performance wise, you see Black actors. So people are like, oh, Broadway is very, diverse. But the people who make the decisions backstage, like the writing and the shows and the stories that get to be told, they were not, Black stories, because there weren't creatives behind the stage. So that's the work that we do. And we do that through education, through mentorship, to um, uh, we go into schools like middle school, high school, college, and then we also serve early career artists who are coming into the business. Again, non-performative, like all business oriented, because that's really the jobs that we were trying to change, so that people, get a chance to tell their stories.
Hmm. How can like my audience help like bring
Black Theater.
awareness to Black Theater United
Oh
and the
my
mission?
gosh. Yes, please. So we have a website. You can always go on to blacktheaterunited.com. You can join our newsletter. You can join our membership. It is free. And what that does is you would be, so there would be the first, our members are the first to get information about events. So we do a lot of really great events. One of them that we just did, again, it's all free. We just had an event on the mind behind the marketing with Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's dad. And he talked about, marketing and what he did, and how he sees it, and how he's been able to, do all of the amazing work that we know that he's done, not just for Beyonce and Destiny's Child, but like so many other artists that we don't even talk about. So yeah, so our audience have access to events like that. We do like producing 101. We do really just so many different incredible ways that people either want to be in the business, not necessarily as an artist, but again, like in marketing, in advertising, in the business side of it, that you don't normally hear or talk about. We also put on a gala, which is a huge event at the end of the year. It's in the fall. So members also are the first to get information about it. We raffle free tickets. The tickets are $1,000, by the way.
Okay.
But if you enter the raffles, like, last year we had, somebody who entered and they got 2 free tickets to the gala. It's great. We just do a lot of really fun stuff for the community. Yeah.
Okay. Kettia, what's something about you that people would find most surprising?
That English is not my first language, or did I already put that in the book? I don't even know if that's in the synopsis.
What's your first language?
Creole. I'm
Creole.
Haitian.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I could hear a little. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I speak French, and sometimes I still dream in Creole. Like, there are times where I still like have to like translate my words in my head. It happens less and less, but I still do that sometimes.
Cool.
Yeah.
What does the following quote mean to you? Reinvention has no expiration date.
Oh, like exactly what it says. Like you can reinvent at 80, at 90. Like people do like, and I think that used to not be the case, where
Mhm.
it was like there was like a straightforward line towards like, you college, married, kids, grandparent, retire, blah, blah, blah. And it was very linear and like, it's not anymore. People are reinventing at every age. And it's not just like, oh, I want to start a business, but it's like, maybe you're in a high powered career job and you're making a lot of money, but you're not really sure like if this is for you anymore. Maybe there's just something calling at you. Maybe there's just whatever it is. Like it's so many reasons why people are like, I'm going to just do, a full pivot. And I think it's, we're able to do that more and more, I think, because of technology, and just the power of the internet and just community and people seeing other people doing it and saying, hey, I could do that. Like seeing examples, like we didn't have examples before. And now we just see so many. So we are able to dream bigger and yeah, do more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, are you the type of person that lives with regrets? Like, do you regret selling selling your centers,
No.
or are you the type that you believe all things happen for a reason?
Yeah, I do. All things happen for a reason. I don't believe that anything's happening, to you. I am one of those people, by the way. Yes. I do believe that things are happening for you. I
Uh-huh.
really, really, truly believe that. Like even the horrible, I mean, if you had asked me back, in 2016, is this lawsuit happening for you? I would have been like, get out of here. Like, I don't want to talk to you. It's hard when you're in it, right? Like to see beyond what's happening in front of you. But yeah, I do believe that things happen so that maybe you become a testimony to someone else. Maybe someone gets to learn something. And I don't know exactly because, and sometimes you never know. Sometimes you never find out why certain things happen, and you never will. But I do believe it, yeah, things do happen for a reason.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
Run the Mile You're In is your testimony.
correct.
Um, besides that, coming out in May, what's next?
Oh my gosh, I don't know yet. I really don't. Like I literally I'm like, let me just get this book out. Like I'm still, I'm still executive director at BTU, so there's a lot going on there. It's a huge, it's I have a small team. It's only four of us. But we do a lot for four people. So yeah, I haven't been able to look past the book release at this point. Yeah.
Hmm. Are you excited?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I wasn't before. Like
Uh-huh.
before, I was like, did I just regurgitate my journal into a book? Like because it felt very personal. And it felt like, and I'm a very private person. So it was very hard for me to kind of put everything out. But once I did feel so much better. Yeah. So now I'm at the point where I am excited. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So a lot of first time authors, they get that itch to do it again. Do you see
Yeah.
yourself writing more?
Um, it's possible. I mean, I won't say no. I don't have anything right now that I'm like, oh, I want to get this out.
Yeah.
But it certainly is possible. I would not say never. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So plug plug where we can find Run the Mile You're In when
Yes,
it's released. Do you have an exact release date as
I
of now?
do. So it releases May 5th. It is the pre-order link is up currently on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, and um yeah, those two for
Hmm.
now. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pre-order link. And, I just want to say that pre-ordering it does a lot for especially new authors. Like just it signals that like people want to read the book, people are curious. So you don't have to wait until May 5th. Like you can just go and like pre-order it now and it will, shoot over to you, May 6th, especially if you do Amazon, like you will get it right away. So go
Right.
ahead and pre-order anytime. Yeah.
Okay. And where can we find you on social media?
I am actually, I just put up my author page. So it's my whole name. It's just KettiaMing at .com.
Okay.
So KettiaMing.com. On Instagram, I'm just Kettia, just my first name. You can find me on Instagram. That's where I post about the book. It's all my name. On LinkedIn is just my name. It's just Kettia Ming.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm on all those pages.
All right. Well, Kettia, it's been a blast. Enjoyed
Thank
the conversation. Enjoy getting knowledge about personal versus business bankruptcy
you.
and just how you triumph against the behemoths. Um, and you're able to share your testimony. So,
Thank you.
yep, like I said, Run the Mile you're in, available May 5th, but pre-order it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being patient with me. This was my first podcast for the book.
Ooh, whoop, whoop. You're gonna be
So
everywhere. You can
I'm really excited. You're the first one. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. I
Oh,
enjoyed talking to you.
you did good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so for Stop, Look, and Listen, I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. See you next week. Peace and blessings.